Hello, YouTube, and welcome to my channel. Today, we'll talk a bit about my favorite topic, and my favorite topic, if anyone is in doubt, is actually philosophy. Now, I read so much philosophy during my lifetime. I started reading philosophy when I was barely a teenager, when I was like 12 years old. I got my first book, and it was called The Stoics. It was like this small little pamphlet, nearly. And since then, I've just been reading so much philosophy, hundreds of books. And yeah, I think, like, if you ask me why I do it, it's because I love this search for truth. And sometimes wisdom just seems to follow the truth. But today we're here to talk about one of my favorite books, actually. It's called Epicurus, and it's about happiness. Now, I can't get my camera to make you see it more, but yeah, there is closer. But yeah, it's Epicurus, and one thing I like about Epicurus is actually while many of the other philosophers like Plato and Aristotle and all these people, Socrates and so on, many of those searched for the truth, while Epicurus was very different. He searched more for what would make him happy, like happiness, and how to avoid a lot of like human misery, you could say. So the funny thing is, you all know the English word garden, and garden was actually the name for Epicurus' school. So when people went to school with Epicurus, it was in the garden. So that's actually a legacy from Epicurus. And Epicurus would often stick to these very simple foods, like a piece of bread and a bit of olive and stuff like that. And the thing you have to realize with Epicurus was not that he couldn't afford anything else. It was because he said that the simple things in life he could always keep getting, like they were easy to get. So they wouldn't be like a problem for him if they fell away. Like the problem with many expensive things, like expensive wine and expensive jewelry and all these expensive things, these luxuries, is sometimes they can also torment you just by possessing them, or when they fall away. And Epicurus had this kind of like thing where he said it's not about what you own, but what you enjoy. So it's not about what you own, but what you enjoy. Like all these things you have in life, like all these things, it doesn't matter anything if they don't make you happy, like if you don't enjoy them. And that's like one of the key things about Epicurus is this constant asking of what makes us truly happy. And that's what really separates him from a lot of the other ancient philosophers. So he also said that we shouldn't worry about something like that, like death, because when you're being dead, you can't experience it. Because when death comes, death is non-being, non-existence, and you can't be and non-be at the same time. Like when death comes, then your perception ceases to be. So what Epicurus was trying to tell us was what we fear is not death itself, it's the pain before death. Like we fear the transition to death, but we actually don't know anything about death, because death is the end of perception. So he actually goes on to say maybe death is the most curious and wonderful thing, because we don't know what happens after death. So you'll actually see in a lot of things that Epicurus has this mentality that we truly don't know, and maybe we shouldn't worry about it. He even goes on to say that human beings, when it comes to death, is like there's no walls tall enough to like protect us. It makes no sense to like worry about it. I think many of the things I like about Epicurus is like this focus on happiness and this focus on simplicity. And I think a lot of the other philosophers have all these high values, you could say. They are often seeking truth, and they're seeking these, how to describe them, metaphysical places, these metaphysical values. While Epicurus is sort of like the garden nerd, probably, that's completely content being in his garden, and also content being with his friends and doing these things he enjoys. So in that way, he kind of finds this down-to-earth wisdom. And I think that's one of the things I enjoy the most about reading Epicurus, is this mentality of you can live a happy life the simple way. And I think that's an important lesson for anyone. Like, one of the key aspects of Epicurus is also, he says that a man is not happy if you add to his riches. He's happy when you take away from his desires. So for Epicurus, it's all about being happy with what we have. He also have another saying, that those people who aren't happy with a little won't be happy with a lot. So for Epicurus, it's all about finding this happiness between taking away from our desires, but also realizing what things we truly value and what things we can do without. So I highly encourage you to read Epicurus if happiness is something that interests you. And I think he's a very overlooked ancient philosopher of the ancient Greeks. Often people talk about Aristotle and Plato, but I think Epicurus is definitely one of the philosophers you need to take serious, because he's a very good philosopher on the topics of things like happiness and these sort of things. So definitely check out the book Epicurus, and yeah, see you later.